Hello, how are you? I'm fine, thank you. Sit down, please. I'd like to speak English today too, to improve my speaking skill. Let's get it started. Today, it is March 13th, 2023. It's on Monday and sunny outside. How are you spending Monday? Do you have a work or a school today? I think many students or salaried workers don't like Monday because it is the first day of the week, the first day in a week, and the other 4 days are left. But the schedule is dependent on the salaried workers or students. Some people have a day off on Monday too. Once I have a break, it takes time for me to initiate the duty again. Can you initiate the duty soon after the break, or it can take time? It can take time to revert to the motivated condition again after the break. It can take time for me to initiate a duty again after break, after lunch break and so on. The festival is going to be initiated early in the morning from 6 o'clock a.m. through the night. Do you know when the festival will be initiated? Do you know when the festival will be initiated? Do you know when the festival will be initiated? I don't know when the festival will be initiated at the exact time, but maybe it's from 9 or 10 o'clock a.m. The company decided to initiate the trial against an anonymous man who damaged the reputation of the company. The company decided to initiate a lawsuit, file a lawsuit against an anonymous man who damaged the reputation of the company publicly. The company decided to make a lawsuit, file a lawsuit, initiate a trial against an anonymous man who reportedly intruded on the owner of the company, had a bad effect on the owner of the company, affected the owner of the company badly. The company is going to initiate a trial against an anonymous man who supposedly allegedly had a bad effect on the owner of the company. The company is going to initiate a trial against a man anonymous man who damaged the owner of the company, When I went to izakaya, a Japanese style tavern, I was charged something I didn't order. It is called tsukidashi or otoshi, a kind of appetizer. It is quite common in Japan, so please be prepared for that. The price for tsukidashi is usually about 300 yen, around 300 yen. The suspect was charged with disturbing the duty of the shop. The suspect was charged with disturbing the duty of the shop. How much were you charged at the restaurant? How much were you charged at the restaurant? We are afraid of being charged by losing our credit cards and so on. We are afraid of charged tremendous amount of money by our information released by third party. We are afraid of being charged tremendous amount of money by our information leaked by someone. So we have to be careful to prevent our secret information from being leaked. No charge will be made beyond the fee. There is a high medical cost benefit. In the system, we don't have to pay beyond the limitation. The amount over the limitation is covered by the insurance. The clerk and the customer is fighting each other because the restaurant charged tremendous amount of money to the customer. The restaurant is going to charge the suspect for disturbing the business, disturbing the duty, disturbing the operation of the shop. The celebrity is going to charge the anonymous man who criticized and damaged the reputation of her. The celebrity is going to charge an anonymous man for damaging the reputation of her. Please don't worry, no extra charge will be made. The total fee has been already paid, so no extra charge will be made. So calm down. Don't be afraid. The charge by the suspect was turned down. The charge by the suspect was rejected. How long does the charge will take? How long will the charge take? How long will the charge take? I don't have enough time. Well, if you have a charge, I can elaborate. I will charge my phone during the trip. Many witnesses many charges by witnesses. Many charges by the witnesses. Every time we look at the tremendous charge, we get depressed. Every time I look at the charge from commodity prices and utility, I get depressed. Every time I get the charge from utility companies, I get depressed. Every time I look at the charge of utilities, I get depressed. The amount of charges from utilities are increasing. The charge for my phone hasn't been completed yet. The charge for my phone hasn't been completed yet. The charge for my phone hasn't been completed yet. The charge for my phone hasn't been completed yet. The charge for my phone has yet to be completed. Who is in charge of cooking this meal? The sauce of this steak is so tasty. I'd like to talk with the chef. Can I talk with the chef? Who is in charge of sales department? Who is in charge of the interpreter? Who is in charge of interpretation? Who is in charge of interpretation? Who is in charge of section chief in the production line. I used to be in charge of engineering. I used to be in charge of dealing with complaints from customers. He is in charge of coping with complaints from customers. I've been using my charger since 2016. It still works. I'm still using the charger I bought in 2016. I'm still using the charger I bought in 2016. I still use the charger I bought in 2016. I still use the charger I bought in 2016. I still use the charger I bought in 2016. I still use the charger I bought in 2016. I still use the charger I bought in 2016. How much is the content of the charger? How much is the content of the charger? How much is the content of the charger? How much is the volume of the charger? Charger, charger, charger. Are you interested in banking? Are you interested in banking? Are you familiar with banking? No, I'm not familiar with banking. Do you have the interest in banking? Are you familiar with banking? Do you know if I can withdraw money on Sundays? Do you know if I can withdraw money in foreign countries with these credit cards? Are you familiar with banking? Do you know how much transaction fee I have to pay if I send some of my money in the bank account to the foreign bank account? The original paintings are banked in other warehouse. The paintings you are seeing now are replicas, carefully painted by the researchers and some students. The original paintings are stored. The original paintings are banked in other places. The original paintings are banked in other places. The original paintings are banked in other places. The paintings you are looking at here now are replicas, carefully painted by researchers. The classified documents are banked, but it is not announced where they are stored. The places classified documents are banked are unknown. It is not publicized. It is not made public. Incredible society will be waiting for us in the future. Incredible society will be waiting for us in the future. Now is the society which must be incredible for people in 100 years ago. When we lose our calmness, we tend to do something with extremity. Have you ever been to the eastern extremity of Japan? Or western extremity of Japan? I have been to western extremity of Japan, called Yonaguni Island. Extremity. We sometimes go to extremity. We sometimes do something with extremity. Maybe we should be bold and extreme and go for it sometimes, because the chance might not come back again. The chance might not come out again. Extremity. Eastern extremity. Western extremity. Northern extremity. Southern extremity. Southern extremity. Extreme coldness. Extreme hotness. Extreme hotness is waiting for us in summer. Extremity. Extremity. Extremity is one of the features of my father. Extremity is one of the features of me, of mine. When I don't have hope, I tend to be extremity. When I don't have hope or in depression, I tend to do something with extremity. I remember proceeding to western extremity of the station, though I have to go out from eastern extremity of the station. I made a mistake, so I asked a security guard of the directions. He told me politely the directions. I remember being about to go out of the western extremity of the station, although I had to go out of the eastern extremity of the station. I asked the security guard the directions, and he told me politely, and I could go out of the eastern extremity on schedule, thanks to him. Thank you. Extremity. 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 I remember going to extremities when I don't hope after losing some money at the gambling. I remember resorting to extremities after losing some money at the gambling, ending up losing all of the money. Extremity. Let's meet at the eastern extremity of the station. Let's meet at the eastern extremity of the station. Have you ever been to western extremity of the island? Have you ever been to eastern extremity of the island? We sometimes resort to extremity when we don't understand the situation, or we lose hope and so on. Are you confident not to go to extremities even when you lose your hope? Are you confident not to go to extremities even if you are in depression, no hope, and so on? Extremity. Some people often go to extremities. Some people often resort to extremities. Some people often proceed to extremities. Some people are always modest and never try to go to extremities. The pianist is very modest and never go to extremities at playing. So her playing sound is very elaborate. I tend to be extreme when I lose hope and so on. I sometimes tend to be extreme at choosing answer from four choices. I sometimes tend to be extreme at making a decision. Extreme way of thinking. Extreme way of thinking. Being extreme is a sign that we are not moderate, we are not calmed down. Resulting extremes, going to extremes, is the sign that we are not calmed down. I try to be not extreme about dealing with my duties. I try not to be extreme at dealing with my duties. It is an extreme story, not based on truth or evidence. It is nothing other than an extreme story, not based on truth or evidence. If I talk about an extreme story, you will be mesmerized. You won't believe it. It's none other than an extreme story. It is none other than an extreme story. It is nothing but an extreme story. My ideas are often extreme. My ideas are often extreme. His decision-making process is always extreme. My decision-making process is frequently, often extreme. Going to extremes means that we are not calmed down. But we might need to go to extremes sometimes, not being afraid of making mistakes. We might need to go to extremes sometimes and go for it to make our dreams come true. We might need to go to extremes at times from time to time and go for it. Go to extremes. I remember going to extremes after losing some money at the gambling. I remember going to extremes after losing my money in order to get the loss back. I remember going to extremes after losing some money in order to get back some money, the lost money. Get the loss back. To get the loss back. Get back the loss. I look extremely pale today. The thing I was surprised at was the price. And the prices in the cafe. They were all extremely reasonable, cheap. The prices set in the restaurant were extremely low, extremely cheap, extremely low, extremely low, extremely low, extremely low, extremely, 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 extremely. It was extremely hot yesterday. It was extremely hot yesterday. As the expert put it, we have to be prepared for the future. As the experts put it, we should be prepared for the future. Are you an expert in politics? Are you an expert in philosophy? What made you want to be an expert in science? What made you want to be an expert, specialist in Japanese culture? We all leave it to the specialist judgment. We all leave it to specialist judgment. We all leave it to the attorney judgment. I will leave it to you. I will leave it to expert judgment. 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 Expertise will be more valuable in the future, or useless. With the emergence of AIs. Expertise, which are valued in this era, might be useless in the future with the appearance of AIs, robots, machines, and so on. The expertise which are useful right now might not be useful as much as today in the future with the emergence of AIs, with the progress of AIs, robots, machines, and so on. A certain expertise which are valuable and useful now might not be as useful as now in the future with the progress of AIs, machines, robots, and so on. What expertise do you have? What expertise do you have? What expertise do you have? What expertise are you going to obtain? What expertise are you interested in obtaining? What expertise are you interested in getting? What expertise are you interested in getting? What expertise are you going to get? What expertise are you going to get? What expertise are you going to get? What expertise are you interested in getting from now on? We will benefit from what we have done for society. We will benefit from doing our efforts. We will benefit by doing efforts in the future. We will benefit by doing efforts. We will benefit by doing efforts. We will benefit from doing efforts. Doing efforts will benefit us. Doing efforts will benefit us. Doing efforts will benefit us. Doing efforts will not betray us. Doing efforts will benefit us. The efforts I made in the past is now benefiting me. The efforts I did in the past is benefiting me. The efforts I did in the past are benefiting me now in many perspectives, in many areas. The efforts we make will benefit us in the future or now, but we cannot know when the effort will benefit us. The beautiful scenery by the ladder-shaped fields are also one of the public benefits. The beautiful scenery of the farmhouses, rice fields, are public benefits. Public benefits. Public benefits should be used for concrete, decent purposes. Public benefits should be used in a correct way. Public benefits should be used fairly for the society, in a good way, in a concrete way, in a decent way. Public benefits should be used in a decent way. Public benefit, 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 private benefit, private and public benefit. The newly created mountain by eruption is a public benefit. Am I contributing to the public benefit? The newly established start-up in the village is a public benefit in the region. The newly established start-up in the small village is a public benefit. I studied English not for entering university, but for the sake of mine. I studied not only to enter the university, but to do what I'm interested in the world. I studied not only enter the university, I studied not only for entering the university but for myself. I studied English not only for entering the university but also for myself. I study English for the benefit of myself, for the sake of myself, for the good of myself. We accumulate money, we earn money, we stock money for the benefit of our future. We save money for the benefit of our future. Thank you for the very beneficial information. Beneficial information. Thank you for 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 informative information. Thank you for beneficial information. Beneficial. Where do you usually get such beneficial information? Where do you usually get the beneficial information? Where do you usually get such beneficial information? Where do you usually get such beneficial information? Beneficial. The Diet members are privileged not to be arrested during the ordinary Diet session, with some exceptions. The Diet members are privileged not to be arrested during the Diet session, with some exceptions. The CEO of the company privileged the researcher to research the semiconductor. The researcher is privileged to research whatever he wanna do. The researchers are privileged to work on their duties whenever they want in the contract. The researchers are privileged to work on their own, depending on their schedule, matching their schedule. The researchers are privileged to work depending on their schedule, as long as they finish the duty by the deadline. The researchers are privileged to work on their own schedule, as long as they finish the deal, as long as they finish the requirements, duties by the deadline. Are you privileged to enter the facility without ID card? Are you privileged to enter the facility for nothing? Are you privileged to enter the facility for free? Are you privileged to enter the facility for free, for nothing? Free of charge. Are you privileged to enter the facility free of charge? The chief executive officer privileged me to use the facility free of charge for a month. The chief executive officer privileged me to use the vacant room for a month free of charge. I'd like to be privileged to do whatever I want under the law. I'd like to be privileged to do whatever I wanna do, as long as I don't intrude on the law. I'd like to be privileged to do whatever I wanna do, unless I intrude on the law, as long as I don't offend the law. One of the privileges I work at the company is that I can get free lunch. One of the privileges that I can get at the company is free lunch. I had the privilege of having an interview with a celebrity. The reporter had the opportunity to have an interview with a celebrity. The journalist had the opportunity to have the interview with the celebrity. Living in the summit of the mountain, I sometimes have the privilege of seeing sea of clouds. Since I live at the top of the mountain, I sometimes come across the deer, wild deer, seas of clouds, and so on. I have the privilege of seeing the sea of clouds. I sometimes have the privilege of seeing sea of clouds. I sometimes have the privilege of seeing a sea of clouds. Have you seen the sea of clouds? Have you seen the sea of clouds? Have you seen the sea of clouds? I sometimes have the privilege of seeing a sea of clouds. I sometimes have the privilege of seeing the sea of clouds. I sometimes have the privilege of seeing the sea of clouds. I sometimes have the privilege of seeing the sea of clouds. Some particular privileged people, some particular privileged executives, some particular privileged classes. Some particular privileged officials, can enter the facility, can enter the country during the pandemic too. Some particular privileged people could go abroad during the pandemic. Some particular privileged people, officials, could go abroad could enter the countries during the pandemic. Some particular privileged people, officials, could enter some countries, even during the state of emergency. Privileged. Some particular privileged officials could go abroad and enter some countries, even during the pandemic. I hope the medical development will eradicate my disease, atopic dermatitis, eczema. I've gone through some medicines. I've taken some medicines ever. I go to the clinic, hospital regularly to have some medicines prescribed. I will have some medicines prescribed. I will have got some medicines prescribed. I regularly go to the hospital to have some medicines prescribed, to get medicines prescribed. I remember getting medicated at the hospital when my asthma was acting up, and I couldn't help, and nothing could help me at home. I remember getting medicated for my asthma at the hospital. I still remember getting medicated at the hospital for my asthma. I still remember getting medicated at the hospital for my asthma. I get medicated regularly at the hospital. I used to be medicated regularly at the hospital. I used to be medicated regularly at the hospital. I used to be medicated regularly at the hospital. I used to be medicated regularly at the hospital. I used to be medicated at the hospital. I used to be medicated regularly at the hospital. Medicate. The pet dog was medicated while eating the food. The pet dog was medicated while distracted by eating the food. The pet dog was medicated while eating the food. The pet dog was medicated while eating the food. The pet dog was medicated while eating the food. The pet dog was medicated while being distracted by eating the food. The pet dog was medicated while he is distracted by eating the food. Some strategies are used to medicate pet cats, pet dogs, and so on. Some strategies are used to medicate animals. Sometimes we resort to natural recovery, not relying on medication. Sometimes it's better to wait for the natural recovery, not relying on medication. But it's better to ask the doctor. It's better to consult with doctors. Medication. Some people try to wait for the natural recovery, not resorting to medication, not turning to medication, not counting on medication. Some people try to treat injuries or other diseases naturally, not relying on medication. Some people try to treat disease or injuries naturally. Some people wait for the natural recovery from disease or injuries, not relying on medication, not turning to medication, not counting on medication. The locals recommended that I should visit the waterfalls. It's worth watching. It was worth seeing. The locals recommended that I should buy the inclusive ticket, with which I could enter 5 facilities for reasonable prices. Please have your boss send us the recommendations, the letter of references. Thank you. Please get your boss to send us the recommendation. I visited the restaurant. I visited the restaurant by the recommendation of the locals. I visited the restaurant by the recommendation of the locals. I challenged the job interview at the company by the recommendation of my instructor. If you meet all of the requirements, you will be recommendable. I'd like to offer some recommendable tourist spots in Osaka. I'd like to show some recommendable places in Kyoto. Could you tell me your recommendable places for sightseeing? Could you recommend me some recommendable places to visit or must-see spots? Must visit spot. Having lunch at the area for lunch is not recommendable because it is super crowded. You will lose 1 hour to wait for the lunch. So eating lunch at the area is not recommendable. So I walked to the next stop to have relaxing time at lunch for lunch. So I walked to the next stop, next train station on foot to find calmness and have lunch with calm atmosphere. And since I didn't want to have a busy lunch, a quick and busy lunch in a crowded place, so I walked to another station on foot from the congested area to have relaxing lunchtime. To have relaxing lunchtime with less crowded place, with in a less crowded restaurant. And my choice was great. My choice was correct. I prefer to study at home all day long than to go to the party. I'd rather study at home all day long than go to the party. I'd rather I will study at home. I would study at home rather than participate in the party. I would study at home rather than participate in the party. Taking part in the party. Take part in the party. Take part in the party. I'd study at home than take part in the party. I hate to match others in everything. I hate to match others in everything. I hate to match others, especially in schedule, where to stay, where to eat, and so on. I don't like match others in where to stay, eat, and so on. There are few people matching my personality. There are few people matching my personality, character, and so on. There are few jobs matching my interests. There are few jobs matching my interests. There are few clothes and fashions matching my interest, tastes. There are few clothes matching my tastes. Our body is strong enough to match 4 seasons: spring, summer, autumn, and winter. We can adapt to different seasons. Our body has the ability to adapt to 4 different seasons among cold and hot. It usually takes more than average for me to match the new environment. It takes longer time than average for me to match new environment. It took me about 1 year to match to the new environment in Tokyo, especially when it comes to taking the public transportations. The train maps look like spider nets, or even more intricate than spider's net. It takes longer than average for me to match new environment. It usually takes longer than average for me to match new environment. It takes longer than average for me to match new environment. It takes longer than average for me to match new environment. It takes longer than average for me to match new environment. For example, it took me about 1 year for me to match the lifestyle in Tokyo, especially when it comes to when it came to public transportations. Unfortunately, the clothes, the gift from my grandmother didn't fit me, didn't match me. Unfortunately, the socks which I got from my grandmother as present didn't match me. But I still keep them. They are sleeping in my in the closet forever, forever, perpetually, eternally. I don't like much others in where to eat, where to sleep, where to stay, where to have fun, and so on. I don't like much others in walking speed. I don't like to match others in walking speed. I don't like to match others in walking speed. There are few people who match my personality, character, taste, and so on. There are few people who match my personality. There are few people who match my personality. There are few people who match my character. There are few clothes. There are few clothes which satisfies my taste. There are few clothes which satisfy my interest. Satisfies me. There are few clothes which attract me. There are few clothes. There are few clothes which attract me. To my surprise, my flight matched the same day as the Prime Minister took. To my surprise, my trip day was matched to the day of the trip of the Prime Minister. To my surprise, my flight matched the flight of the Prime Minister. To my surprise, my flight matched the one of the Prime Minister. To my surprise, the total price of the shopping matched four serial numbers. 1111, 1111 yen. To my surprise, the total price of the shopping matched four serial numbers. 1111 for 1111 yen. I get super nervous before the match. Are you excited? Are you excited to watch the match? Football match? Soccer match? Are you excited to watch the soccer match? Are you excited to watch the soccer match? Are you excited to watch the soccer match? Watch. Are you excited to watch the soccer match? 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 Are you looking forward to watching the soccer match tonight? Are you looking forward to watching the soccer match tonight? Are you looking forward to watching the baseball match tonight? Are you looking forward to watching the baseball match tonight? Are you looking forward to watching the baseball match tonight? Are you looking forward to watching the baseball match tonight? Match. I'm no much for those working on the duty with joy and interest and a lot of motivation. We are no match for those doing the duties with joy and a lot of motivation. They are doing with a lot of interest, joy, and motivation. We are no match for those doing the duties with a lot of interest and joy. Everyone thought that the challenger would be no match for the champion, but it was turned over. It was turned over, but the prediction was overturned. The challenger won over the champion. In those days, everyone thought that the challenger would be no match for the champion because the gap of the level was so huge, but the prediction was overturned. In those days, everybody predicted that the challenger would be no match for the champion, but the prediction was overturned. We will be no match for those doing the duties with a lot of joy, interest, and motivation. We will be no match for those doing the duties with a lot of motivation, interest, and joy. I'm no match for you in everything. I'm no match for you in almost everything, but there is one thing I can be beyond you. It is to keep doing. I'm no match for you in almost everything, but there is one thing that I can be beyond you, which is to keep doing forever, perpetually, eternally, for good. Mm. We are no match for the power from the nature. Human beings are no match for human being is no match for the power of the nature. We are no match for the power of the nature. Human being is no match for the power from the nature. Human being is no match for the power by the nature. Human being is no match for the power of the nature. We are no match for the power of the nature. We are no match for the power of the nature. We are no power, and we are no match for the power of the nature. We are no match for the power of the nature. We are no match for the power of the nature. We are no match for the power of the nature. We are no match for the power of the nature. We are no match for the power of the nature. We are no match for the power of the nature. Most of us already is no match for the AI in terms of the knowledge. Most of us is no match for AIs in terms of the knowledge. As far as I know, the AI is already knowledgeable enough to solve the questions of the University of Tokyo. As far as I know, AI is sophisticated enough to be able to solve the problems, questions asked in the examination of the University of Tokyo. As far as I know, the AI is sophisticated enough to be able to answer the questions in the examination of the University of Tokyo. As far as I know, AI is sophisticated enough to be able to answer the questions in the examination of the University of Tokyo. So, which means most of us are no match for AI in terms of knowledge. Most of us are already no match for AI in terms of knowledge. In effect, I entered the university with the aim of learning about audiovisual, but my interest changed during my days in the university. I entered the university with the aim of learning about audiovisual in order to create the best speakers in the world. In fact, I entered the university with a view to learning about audiovisuals in order to make the best speakers in the world. I'd like to know if the island is inhabited or not. No. I'd like to know whether the island is inhabited or not. No. Not inhabited. Deserted island. Hmm. As the inhabitants put it, we should avoid taking the route. As the locals put it, we should avoid taking the route. As the inhabitants put it, as the inhabitants put it, we should avoid taking the route. Inhabitant, inhabitant, inhabitant. The inhabitants in the disaster-affected area were evacuated safely with the help of self-defense forces. The inhabitants in the disaster-stricken area were evacuated safely with the help of self-defense forces. The inhabitants living in the disaster-affected area were evacuated. The inhabitants where natural disasters are likely to happen were ordered to evacuate from the region. The inhabitants where natural disasters are likely to happen and were ordered to evacuate as soon as possible. The inhabitants living in the area where natural disasters are likely to happen by heavy rain and typhoon were ordered to evacuate to stronger structure. I will have my futon exposed to the sun today. I will dry futon outside today because it is very sunny. Exposing the futon to the sun might be original way to dry futon. I will have my futon exposed to the sun at the cleaning shop. I will expose futon to the sun today. I don't want to expose my personal information to the internet. Many people will think so. Don't expose me to the risk. Many people don't want to expose themselves to the high risk. Many people don't want to expose themselves to the high risk. Many people don't want to expose themselves to high risk. There are some areas with high radiation, dense radiation. How much is the density of the radiation? Do you have the tool to measure the amount of radiation? Do you have the tool to measure the amount of the radiation? Radioactive violet, radioactive contamination. I cannot say thank you too much. I cannot appreciate your help 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 enough. Thank you very much, really. You cannot be too careful. You cannot be too careful when you cross the street. You cannot be too careful when you swim in the sea. You cannot be too careful when you cross the street. I cannot say thank you too much. Thank you, really. Your help was so helpful. Your help really saved me from many perspectives. I cannot appreciate you enough. I was really helped by you. I cannot appreciate you too much. I was really helped by you. I was really saved by you. I was really saved by you. I cannot say thank you too much. I cannot thank you enough. I cannot thank you enough. You really saved me. Believe in your potential. Believe in your potential. I think many people make light of their potentials. I think many people make light of their potentials. I think many people underestimate their potentials. I think many people underestimate their potentials. I think many people make light of potentials. I think many people underestimate their potentials, ending up no challenges. I think many people make light of their potentials, ending up no challenges. I think many people make light of their potentials. Let's take every potential danger into account. Let's take every potential sore spot into consideration. Let's take every potential natural disaster into consideration. I took every potential question by the examiners into consideration as preparation before the job interview. I remember taking all potential questions from the examiners into consideration before the job interview. I remember taking every potential question from the examiners into account as preparation before the job interview. What is the plant? It's a fire plant. Tidal power generation, wind power generation, wave power generation, solar power generation, geothermal power generation. Nuclear plant, nuclear plant, nuclear factory, nuclear energy. The cracks overlooked by human inspections are detected later by the machines. The machines can detect the cracks overlooked by the inspections by the humans. The machines can detect minor cracks overlooked by from the inspections by the humans. The machine can detect minor small cracks on the devices overlooked by human inspections. Excuse me, I booked a room overlooking the Pacific Ocean, but I cannot see it. Oh, sorry, sir. I will immediately move you to the room with the Pacific Ocean. Sorry. Excuse me, I reserved a room with Pacific Ocean, overlooking the Pacific Ocean, but I cannot see Pacific Ocean. I just see the road. Excuse me, I reserved the room overlooking Seto Inland Sea, but I cannot see it. I just see the city view. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry, sir. I will immediately move you to the room with the Seto Inland Sea view. Many presses gathered to have the interview with the celebrity. Many presses gathered in front of the celebrity house. Many presses gathered at the press conference. Many presses gathered in the press conference and to have the interview with the CEO of the company. Many presses gathered in the press conference to have an interview and to ask some questions to the CEO of the company. Some teachers in elementary school overlooked small mistakes on the examination, and I could get perfect score sometimes. Some teachers overlooked minor mistakes on my examinations, and I could get perfect score, but it was not reflected at junior high school, above junior high school. In elementary school, some teachers overlooked minor mistakes on test, and I could get perfect score. But if such services never happened after junior high schools. Some teachers overlooked minor mistakes and made it correct, making me get perfect score. But such services never happened after junior high school. Some teachers overlooked some smaller minor mistakes on the test, making them correct, which made me get perfect score. But such services never happened after junior high school. Such minor cracks on the devices which are overlooked by human inspections are detected by the machine. The machine can detect such minor cracks which have been overlooked by the human inspections. It dawned on me that I had been deceived by the company from start for years. It dawned on me that I had been deceived by the man from start for years. I used to play video games for a long time, for a very, very long time. But now, if anything, I never played. I used to play video games for a long time, but now, if anything, I never do that. I never play video games. There are two reasons. One is I lost the interest. The second is that playing video games makes me feel things, waste of time, and so on. I used to play video games for a long time, but now, if anything, I never played. There are two big reasons. One is that I lost the interest. The second is playing video games make me fear penalty, sins, and so on. Playing video games make me fear sins, waste of time, and so on. Playing video games make me fear waste of time, sins, and so on. Which do you make much of? Price or quantity? Which do you make much of more? Price or quantity? Which do you make much of? Time or price? Which do you prioritize? Quantity or quality? Which do you make much of? Which do you make much of more? Quantity or quality? I think many people make light of their potentials. I think many people make light of their potential. Which is too good to lose. Which is too good to lose. What are the farmers harvesting in the mountain? They are harvesting apple. What are the farmers harvesting? What are the farmers cultivating in the paddy field? They are growing rice in the paddy field. Rice is planted in spring and harvested in summer. I see. What are the farmers cultivating in the paddy field? They are cultivating rice in the paddy field. If I have enough time and money, I'd like to see the countryside of Japan. I especially want to see the paddy field of rice in the countryside of Japan. What are the farmers cultivating? What are the farmers cultivating? What are the farmers cultivating in the paddy field? The farmers are cultivating rice. 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 There are only 2 grocery stores in the mountains, so the prices of the commodities sold at the in the grocery stores are relatively high. Since there are only 2 grocery stores in the mountain, the prices sold at the grocery stores are relatively high. 1.5 the prices sold at the grocery stores are about 1.5 more expensive than those sold at normal supermarkets. But the 2 grocery stores are only way to get food and groceries in the mountain, so that's why. The grocery store is one of the factors when I search for an apartment, because if there is no grocery store near me, it would be inconvenient. Grocery store around my apartment is one of the choices when I find an apartment. The position of the grocery store is one of the factors when I search for an apartment. How many restaurants are they running? The older couple is running a restaurant. The restaurant has been run by older couple since a long time ago. The venerable cafe has been owned by the couple since a long time ago. The venerable cafe has been run by the couple since 50 years ago. The venerable locally loved cafe has been run by the couple since 50 years ago. The locally loved cafe has been run by the couple since 50 years ago. The locally loved cafe has been run by the couple. The locally loved cafe has been run by the couple since a long time ago. Do you know when the original castle was built? Do you know when the original castle was established on the land? The original one was established in 1583, but the current one was established in the early 20th century. The original castle was established in 1583, but the current one was established in early 20th century with the help of donation from the citizens. What is the institute researching? What is the institute doing? What is the institute doing? I'd like to know what the institute is doing. I'd like to know what the institute doing. I'd like to know what the institute is doing. What is the concept of the business of the institute? My friend is coming to Japan in early December and going back to Germany in late December. Many tourists are expected to visit Japan from late March through early April to see cherry blossoms viewing, to enjoy cherry blossom viewing. I have to meet the requirement by late December, no later than Friday. I have to be there no later than 1 o'clock p.m. I have to be there no later than 1 o'clock p.m. Early December, late December. Late schedule of the bus. Early schedule of the bus. Later bus. Later schedule of the bus. Later bus. Earlier bus. I will take the earlier bus. I will take the later bus. I will take the later bus. I will take the earlier bus. Because I am already tired, so I want to go home. So I will take the earlier bus. I will take the earlier bus to go home. I'm so tired now. Okay, I will go back with the later bus. See you later. Early November. Late November. Do you prefer the music in late 1990s? Do you prefer the music in late 1990s? Late 1990s. Do you prefer the music in 1990s? Do you prefer the music in late 1990s? Do you prefer the music in late 1990s? Do you prefer the music in the late 1990s? Do you prefer the music in the early 1990s? Do you prefer the music in the late 1990s? Do you prefer the music in the early 1990s? Do you prefer the music in early 1990s or in the late 1990s? In the late 1990s. 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 Okay, I will finish speaking here. Thank you for watching. See you next time. See you!